atheists often like to spread the idea that religion is bad and that it inevitably leads to war. So naturally, when the theist hears this, they point out examples of when atheism has led to war and in fact killed far more people than religion ever has in such concentration. But in response to this, the atheists will often say that these are not really atheistic societies. So in this video, we will be examining the beliefs of the Soviet Union and to see if they align more with atheism or with anything else, and to see where they derive their values, what they did, and how it constitutes militant atheism. So, let's begin. This is part of a book I own called The Dictators, Hitler's Germany, Stalin's Russia. I quoted this book before in my video on Hitler when I was discussing his religious beliefs, but since the book also talks a lot about the Soviet Union, we can also look at what it says about that. What was the Soviet Union's position on religion? Religion was regarded as a principal obstacle to the modernization of Soviet society and the construction of a communist economy, and religious communities were treated as if they were political supporters of a vestigial capitalism. But now that we see that the position of the Soviet Union regarding religion was that it's an obstacle to modernization of society, what was their position on atheism? How did it relate to Marxism and such? Let's ask the man himself, Vladimir Lenin. What do you think of atheism? Atheism is a natural and inseparable part of Marxism, of the theory and practice of scientific socialism. Scientific socialism, he says. So according to Vladimir Lenin, one of the original leaders of the Soviet Union, atheism is just a natural progression from Marxism, and it is based on scientific socialism. Notice also, by the way, how this does seem to imply that the certain immoral actions that the Soviet Union committed in the name of trying to spread atheism, which we're going to show in the future how atheism was spread, how they believed that it should be spread, that they believed that those beliefs were entirely justified under scientific socialism and Marxism. You see, the general belief here is that if science produces atheism, and if science also produces these other moral values that they hold to, then we can say that atheism and Marxism, or the moral values that spring from Marxism, ultimately come from the same source. At least this is the justification that the Soviet Union would give to say that atheism, that this is right by atheism, to say that both of them spring from the same source. Not necessarily that these moral values spring from atheism, but that atheism springs from where we also got these moral values that they held to during the Soviet Union. But let's see their process. Let's see how the Soviets intended to spread atheism initially. Religious faith, rather than the institution of church life, was regarded as simple superstition destined to be quickly swept away by the revelation of modern science. By the way, between religious people and atheists, who does that statement sound more like? But let's continue. In Baku, a group of schoolchildren were encouraged to test the truth of the Bible when taken to a park and told to pray for lunch. When nothing appeared, they were told to call on Lenin, and within minutes, trucks laden with bread, cheeses, and fruit drove into the park. You see now, they were told, it is not God who gives you bread, but Lenin. And these are the sorts of demonstrations, by the way, that they would do in Russia to show that God is not, to show that they shouldn't believe in God, and that they should rather believe in Marxism, or that they should believe in the state. Now, this isn't implying that they're trying to make themselves God. They're just trying to make people believe in them rather than believing in God. But we must wonder, was this type of approach to religion effective? The ridiculing of religion proved counterproductive. Gradually, the regime came to realize that religious faith was a powerful moral reality that the years of revolution and civil war had done little to dispel. In 1921, the regime shifted from a political repression to a battle of ideas. Lenin called for the party to adopt programs of militant atheism and militant materialism. Religion was to be defeated by the power of scientific explanation, which represented a single truth. Religion is to be defeated by the power of scientific explanation, called for militant atheism and militant materialism. Yet, so Lenin specifically said that he's doing what he's doing, the programs that he's doing, is specifically done in the name of atheism. He specifically says militant atheism. But when someone like Lenin says that they're doing things in the name of atheism, he obviously can't be doing it in the name of atheism. But when other people during the Inquisitions are doing things contrary to Christianity, contrary to the teachings of Christ, they must perfectly be acting in line with Christ. But you may ask, what about all those bad things that they did to religious people? Let's continue. In June 1923, the party set up the League of the Godless, led by an old Bolshevik who had briefly preceded Stalin as secretary to the Central Committee of the party and was, most verily, atheist of the regime's new leaders. By 1929, the League had 900 cells of atheist antagonizers and 465,000 members. A year later, in 1924, a Society of Militant Materialists was founded. The party launched nationwide program of atheist propaganda and scientific demonstrations. So even when they started locking people up for not liking atheists or being atheist antagonizers, they, even at this point, were still trying to do scientific demonstrations. And if you continue to read in this book, you'll realize that after they did this, after they started locking people up, then they started destroying church buildings or getting rid of church buildings. Then they started locking up religious leaders. Then they started killing religious leaders. Then they started killing people who identified with the religious leaders. And it just got progressively worse. But notice, their first attempts to try to get rid of religion were using scientific demonstrations, and they continued to use those methods even when they started using these other methods. So, based on all this evidence, I hope you can see that the evidence leans towards the Soviet Union being a very atheistic regime, and that they did persecute people based on their religious beliefs. Thank you for watching, and God bless.